The real piece, and we think the real strength and where the best bang for the buck is within the conservation programs and expanding what we already have. And the research has been looking at what's everyone else, or not only around the region, but around the world doing. And what we tried to do was pick the very best of those programs and add as much of it as we could to our strategy. So the first one, it really speaks to discretionary water use regarding sprinkling, regulation, education, and enforcement. It would almost be the carrot followed by the stick, where there's a door-to-door education campaign talking about the need, when you're allowed to water, and opportunities to use maybe more efficient landscaping, followed by actual enforcement where a ticket is written if it is, sprinkling is happening on the wrong day or at the wrong time. Other pieces would be technology retrofits, incentives for low-flow toilets, rain sensors, and this isn't limited to necessarily single-family residential. Commercial, the multifamily sectors, those would all be looked at and evaluated whether there's a benefit and opportunity for us to get involved. We're looking at one program where we would install low-flow fixtures to target groups, so we'd actually have the plumber go right into the home and help reduce barriers that way. A big piece, and we're hearing it from the public, is strengthening green building codes. Again, this is following the rate of development, which in water's case, we have that opportunity. Things like reducing the threshold for renovation, when it would trigger in high efficiency toilet requirements and so forth. There's talk of lowering that from approximately 95,000 to 50. Mandating low flow fixtures, building things like rainwater harvesting into those codes to give the options for new homes, or to even mandate it. We don't want to forget the industrial, commercial, institutional units, water efficiency audits, rebates, getting them involved in those programs. One of the big demands within the ICI group is once-through cooling for refrigerator systems. And we've been in contact with the mechanical contractors associations and other groups that see the maintenance and installation of these, and we've said to them, what if we were to ban them in our bylaw? No new ones. No problem. What if we asked you by 2020 to have them all retrofitted and replaced? And again, they were fine with it. They were giving feedback to the extent, well, we can't even buy that kind of technology anymore. And that would have a really huge effect within that ICI sector. And the last piece is really about City of Vancouver walking the walk and examining our leak detection program. 11% is a great number, but we could probably do more, especially if you couple it with pressure management, where if we recognize that we are leaking, if it's at a lower pressure, we're going to leak less. Our parks, with our fountains and water features, those all could have more efficient updates, but that will take a capital investment, and that is part of our part of the strategy. And as well, civic facilities, same idea, retrofit ideas where we bring older buildings up to standard with respect to water facilities. With our receiving water, we plan to put in a goal of eliminating combined sewer overflows in False Creek by 2020. We're well on the way and we feel that's achievable. And rainwater management, not only looking at homes developing rainwater harvesting, it's about how we can manage rainwater better in the public realm. And this is infiltration designs where we would put less into the pipes and more right back into the ground. So when we start to work through all of the various categories of our programs that we're going to be proposing, what we're showing here is, as we get deeper into the chart, the cost to save 1,000 liters gets higher and higher. So you get really good bang for the buck dealing with sprinkling regulation, education, enforcement, our leak programs. Those sorts of things have really good payback for not a lot of investment. You can see at the bottom, 10 with the star is residential water metering. This is the most costly. And that's why we wanted to make sure we put out 3 options, because it is going to be a really difficult conversation that council will have and decision they'll need to make. So we're leaving that with a star because it could cost up to $140 million, but there is options for it to cost less at a lower pace.
What was the percentage?
The percentage, what we're suggesting there is fully implemented. That's what we feel we'll get as a reduction in total water consumption, and that's the total pie. So we've had 2 meetings with our advisory panel. We're planning our 3rd and last next week, and what we'll do there is go through our strategy. We've delivered them the strategy as of yesterday, validate the public input with them, and thank them for a lot of effort. We've had 2 really good meetings, and we're expecting another debate-filled, comment-packed meeting with them. We're on pace to get our implementation plan installed and ready for October 8th, and we're looking forward to taking this message to Council. That's it. So that's as much as I wanted to give you today. I wanted to save enough time if there were any questions. It was a lot of information, but be happy to scroll back if there's any fine points.
Excellent, thank you for that. If there are questions, you have to ask them into this. Questions?
Hi, Peter. Thank you for the presentation. You might have talked about it, but I probably missed it. You mentioned a lot about single family, and I see a lot of the water conservation similar to energy, like what the green building people are doing. And I understand there is, but I could be wrong. My impression is that there's actually more Vancouver residents live in multifamily buildings than in single families. And there's a lot more energy being consumed multifamily than single family. I'm not sure if they're the same for water usage, and you could comment on that. And the second piece is if my impression of the water usage in a single family versus multifamily per household, the big difference is the lawn. And since we have a local food strategy about green space and community gardens, I wonder, is there any overlap as to the lawn usage for like water consumption versus the lack of community space to grow local food in the region? Have any kind of overlap synergies there? And the third is going back to the overlap with green building, is that they are working on a funding strategy that any costly improvements that are done now will be the cost sharing will be shared over 10-20 years by all the owners over the year. And you mentioned that the water right now is charged at cost to residents, and if you have a costly future-proofing plan, would that cost be able to factor out every year to the residents, so it's not at one point and it's not funded at one time but shared by all residents over the years? I'm not sure if that makes sense.
Okay, I'm going to try to start with the first point you had. I'm going to try to keep up. You talked about energy and the relationship with multifamily. I think one of the big pieces that we wanted to capture in this strategy was making sure that multifamily was on the radar. You know, they are metered, and you know, and I guess in the grand scheme of things, there is a price connection to water because they are metered. But in reality, they're all in individual suites, and there's programs that BC Hydro are offering that talk to energy conservation. And one of the key pieces that we were thinking was, yeah, there might not be the lawn usage and the discretionary outdoor water usage, but there's still a lot of buildings with old fixtures that aren't to speed. And if Hydro's already doing programs, we're looking at partnerships where we could get involved and combine the energy savings along with the water savings. So if they're just using less water in their shower, well, that's a double benefit because it's less energy going in. And that's where in terms of the water, that's where the GHG impacts would be felt.
With the hot water.
With the hot water. Now, the second, I can't remember, what was the second? It was something to do with lawn sprinkling? Oh, food and lawn. Well, you know, clearly our message is going to be, when we're out doing sprinkler enforcement, the message is going to be there's alternatives to lawn. There's water-wise landscaping. And it's, you know, of course, we're not going to say you can't water your lawn or you can't have a lawn. It'll be more, here's the times and dates you can water your lawn. But the messaging will be, well, what if you didn't have a lawn? What other things could you do with that space? And there's a real great connection then with the food production concept. The last piece you were talking about was, I understood it was about financing it and how we would long-term finance something like that. And so if council were to determine we really want to go for metering all across the city, every property, and you're looking at $100 million, $120 million cost, we clearly need to finance that. And it would be a longer term, probably in the same order as we finance our capital programs, in the 10 or 15 year kind of bond. And we would look at something like that. Now we would recover it through the water rates, through that the metered rate that we would then charge the customer. But yeah, we would certainly smooth that out as far as we could.